One of Beto O'Rourke's biggest home state newspapers has a request from the Houston Chronicle editorial board. Here's the headline. Beto, come home. Texas needs you. They're making the case that Beto should step away from the Democratic primary and turn his attention to running against Senator John Cornyn in 2020. From that piece, quote, "We need you, Beto, because Texas badly needs that other view of the world, those differing opinions. You've brought us closer to having real competing parties than any other candidate has and than any candidate on our radar could. Everyone's back." What do you think?
I say go, Beto, go home. I really think that I think so many people are so focused on beating Trump, and it's the majority of our conversations are about the potential candidates and who's going to win the nomination. And of course, it's because of where I come from that I understand how our government works. You guys get it. You've been there. The point is, if we don't get more Senate seats, it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory. It's going to be
Mitch McConnell blocks gun control.
Mitch McConnell blocks everything, and he's loading up a very important part of our country with these right-wing ideologues that are very young on the federal bench. So us taking the Senate is a big darn deal. Can I say damn?
You can say whatever you want.
Big damn deal. And Beto would be a really important addition to that effort. And I think, sometimes you got to weigh, how does your country need you most? And I honestly believe that our country needs Beto to run for the Senate in Texas.
Look, he's a great candidate, whichever race he's in, and his team and in his mind, he knows when the drop-dead date is to jump back into the Senate race. And I don't know qualifying in Texas, but it likely goes all the way up to Iowa that he can see if he gets a ticket out of Iowa and New Hampshire. If not, pull the trigger very closely. My guess is, unless his heart just absolutely is not in a Texas Senate run, they've already got a plan B in the works, and they could pull that trigger pretty quickly.
Wow.
Beto wanted to be a senator last time.
Yeah.
Cornyn is very beatable and gettable. I think I'd love to call him Senator O'Rourke. He can take all that money he's raised in that presidential campaign and transfer it to a Senate campaign so he doesn't start behind. Beto, go home.
Wow.
I thought that ever since they started talking about
Take
Beto
Tom
as a
Steyer
presidential.
with you. Can we do that? Tom Steyer with
When
you.
they started talking about Beto as a presidential candidate, I said, no, focus on Texas. A great report that 1% of the population of California has actually moved to Texas. As we talk about places like Texas, Georgia, the Carolinas,
Right.
the demographics
Growth.
are changing so dramatically. I'm not saying it's going to be a red state, but a blue state, but it does make his path easier. So absolutely, for all the reasons that you said, run for the Senate.
Just for all the Beto for president viewers on the show, I hear from them often. I think there's a second scenario, I'm sure, inside the Beto campaign that last week's clarity and being the first to call Donald Trump a white supremacist, Elizabeth Warren, who is running a good campaign, followed him. Then 7 more did. I mean, is there an argument to make one more run at this president thing?
No.
Stay in. I agree with you. Stay in as long as your heart's in it, and if not, fall back.
No, I think he didn't win an argument over that. What he did was give clarity to the fact that he could be a real leader for Texas.
What he's having to straddle, though, is the politics in Texas are different than the politics in a Democratic primary for president. He was very tight in that race against Cruz, even on guns and other issues. He didn't focus on the more progressive parts of his policy proposals. He's having to do that in the presidential race, and his team is aware of that. What are the implications of his presidential policy positions on a potential Senate race?
That's a great point.